Hello, my friends, and welcome to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья! Вы смотрите программу Ushanka Show. Today's episode will be a little bit different. We're not going to talk about Soviet past, we're going to talk about Soviet future. The Soviet future, the future of the all humankind, how it was envisioned by one of the most famous Soviet science fiction writers, Ivan Yefremov. Ivan Yefremov was born in 1908, so he was 1 year younger than my grandfather, and he passed away in 1972, aged 64, so quite early. Yefremov wrote two major science fiction books. First one in 1957, Andromeda Nebula. And if you remember, 1957 was an important year in the history of the Soviet space exploration, because on October 4, 1957, the first Sputnik was launched into orbit. He wrote his second major science fiction book called The Bull's Hour, Chas Beka, 11 years later in 1968. And that book didn't go really well with the Soviet government. They accused that the novel was promoting anti-Sovietism, and it was banned from publishing up to the end of the 80s. So only during Perestroika times we could read that book. And when I was researching Ivan Yefremov, I found some rumors online that there's a quite possibility that he was helped to die that early, because he wrote his second book in 1968, and 4 years later he was dead at quite early age. So his first book, Andromeda Nebula, actually was showing this utopian communist future of the mankind, and 11 years later his second book was pretty much like the opposite. So in 11 years he got so disappointed with the way Soviet Union was going, so he actually wrote something that was considered criticism of the USSR. But in today's video I would like to concentrate on the first book, Andromeda Nebula, Туманность Андромеды, and present you the beautiful future of the planet Earth through the eyes of Ivan Yefremov. This book is actually available in English, and I'll provide the link in the comment section below, and I'll try my best not to do any spoilers. It's just we're going to talk about presentation of the bright communist future of the planet Earth. I was a teenager back in Kiev when I read this book first time, and I had mixed feelings about it because it has like two parallel stories going on, one in space, and which is amazing. We got alien ships and all kind of good stuff, just really good story. And then together with it, it goes the parallel story going on Earth, and I found it quite boring being a teenager. But now it's almost, when I started reading again this book, I find that part is more interesting, because it's actually where Ivan Yefremov presents how he saw the future like 5,000 or 6,000 years from now. So he didn't specify how many thousands of years, but sounds like probably close to 6,000 years. So what is going on? The society of this world, so planet Earth, is just a single nation that occupies the whole planet, and all of its members speak the same language. So right there, communist globalism prevailed. So the humans did a major transformation, major remodeling of the Earth to turn into an ideal planet for human beings. So they did a lot in order to make life more comfortable and agriculture production more fruitful. For example, they melted ice caps for the milder climate, and as a result, ocean's level went up about 7 meters, but it was well worth it because now climate was well milder. So every square meter of the ground and the ocean has its own function in order to make human life more comfortable once again. Residential zones are situated along the 30 parallel north and south, so people of the future can live in the best climate conditions. So thanks to that lifestyle, so they abandoned large spaces, they just moved into that comfortable area. So because of that, they don't need to wear winter clothes or waste energy to heat up their houses. So that's pretty smart. So as you understand, there are no more countries and no more borders. People freely can move around the whole planet. So what else we got? So in the deserts, and that's what the solar energy panels are installed. So they use that. A lot of ancient deserts transform into gardens. All the industrial factories are situated in tropics, far outside the residential zone. And since there is so much automation and robotics, there is almost no human personnel working those. A few people in those factories just responsible for support. So they just go there and stay, but they don't stay there for a long time doing any hard work. So I want to remind you the definition of communism. So that's the next stage after socialism. So socialism means no private means of production. In communism, it's the next level when the level of production is so high, there is no need anymore for money or the governments. So that's what Ivan Yefremov was talking about. And if you already exclaimed, man, I love that communist future, it's getting even better. So any place on the planet is easily accessible thanks to the high velocity transport. So they built this high-speed train system called the spiral road. So you can go at the speeds about 200 kilometers an hour, so about 125 miles an hour. So you can hop on the train and you basically travel all over the world. So there's bridges connecting continents and peninsulas. So this is the main way of moving around the world on this spiral road. And let's talk about people of the future. So that was the first time when actually someone described humans of the future and gave a quite detailed description. So people of the communist future, according to Ivan Efremov, they are ideal humans. Pretty much all of them are handsome, they're strong, they're tall, they're intelligent. Their lives are 2 to 3 times longer than ours. So respectively, they stay young much longer and they become old much later. So it sounds really good, right? And their physical and psychological conditions are way better. They're all gifted in sports and arts and stuff like that. So that sounds great. And of course, all the people of the future, they have high level of morality. It is impossible for them to lie. They don't know how to hate or be jealous, and they're always ready to help each other. And the reason why they're so amazing is because education is an important part of that society, and it is well organized. Right after birth, babies are taken away from their parents and sent to special boarding schools. So according to the communist future, parents can't raise and discipline their children, although there's a special island, it's called the Island of Mothers exists. So some people who don't want to live in that lifestyle, they can go and live old-fashioned style and raise their own children. So they do have a choice, but it's on a special island. Okay, so during the first 17 years, children changed their boarding schools 4 times, and every school corresponded to a specific age, of course, and specific type of education. Those schools are situated in different parts of the planet, so every time students change school to reach next level, they need, so he or she needs to move to a new place. And that supposedly helps children to succeed in studying with all possible life conditions and prepare them to face their future professional life. And despite the fact of leading a separate life to their parents, all children, they can keep contact with their family, and they do keep contact with their family, and they can meet family members whenever they want. After the schooling is done and before the beginning of professional life, every member of this ideal society has to perform so-called labors of Heracles, so podvigi Herculesa. So there's a specific important social activities like working in a hospital, hunting down dangerous animals. That's interesting. They still have some dangerous animals can attack people, and converting wild zones for future scientific exploration and so on. As it comes to work itself also has important place in everyone's life without being troublesome. So there's, everything is robots, automation, so you don't have this manual work that you assemble, smartphone by thousands every day. So for ideal people, there's no professional activity that is boring or demeaning. They accept with pleasure high responsibility position as well as the hard physical work. Everyone changes profession 4 or 5 times in life, switching between intellectual and manual activities. They can change their jobs or take a break wherever they want to, no matter for how long. However, no one abuses this possibility. Really, that sounds awesome. And some of you guys probably are not happy to hear about this globalist communist future. So for you, there's a special place in Yefremov's future society. So this place is located like islands, as I mentioned before. So all the women who desire to raise their children by themselves can do it on the mother's island. And there is also the Island of Oblivion, where life is organized in an old-fashioned mode, and everyone works for his own good and not for the good of society. As central political power is absent, society is managed by all its members. Political decisions are discussed and approved or disapproved by all the adult members of the ideal future society. And when the unified decision is possible, then they ask for help from most experienced professionals and they make a decision what to do. And of course, that far into the future, there is already space traveling, so humans occupied the entire solar system. They have a outside like a space stations for the spaceships on the Triton, the satellite of Neptune. So that's how far they have their stations, and then they explore nearby stars already, but it still takes a long time to reach those stars, so speeds are not like science fiction style speeds. And the coolest part of his story is so-called Великое кольцо, the Great Ring. So eventually, humans got in touch with other civilizations out there in other stars, so they're too far to reach, but they can talk. So there's a common language of the civilizations, and humans managed to decipher it. So now, so many times a year, they send the signals between each other, exchange information, exchange images, and that's like a big part of the story in this book, how they fired up this communication system, which takes like 43% of the whole Earth electric power. So they, concentrate all that to send the signal, and they will share information with other civilizations in space. That was really cool part. So anyway, I strongly recommend to read this book. As I said, I'll provide the link in the comment section below. And it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it. It's so clean. It shows perfect future, and it's just such a joy to read and imagine yourself there. I mean, of course, you understand, like, it's definitely not possible, unfortunately, but that would be fantastic to go to that level when there's no more, hard manual labor, that people can make choices, change their careers, no worries about housing. And it's pretty much, they're talking about, person needs to move. He has very little personal belongings. You can literally carry it in your bag because everything is available for free. There's no more money, no more need to hoard items. And then like, okay, I want to experience living somewhere else. I would like to do something challenging. And so I will go and if it's available, I'll work in the underground mines under the ocean, because that's one of those rare cases when the manual labor is still needed. So, or you can travel to moon and do some work there. So it's just kind of this inspiring read. And in parallel, there's the space story, which is, just real science fiction with all these other planets and cool, new suns and stars. So yeah, I enjoy reading that book a lot, and I'm reading it right now again just to kind of refresh. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this presentation of the fabulous communist future of the planet Earth as it's shown in the book Andromeda Nebula by Ivan Efremov. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.